Hello, I'm that James guy, and today we're going to work on Betty. We're going to do the oil filter gasket, the gasket between the oil filter housing and the cylinder head. And so let's get the hood open and let's get to it. So this is starting to leak pretty good here. You can see kind of the sweating there. Look in there, it's kind of sweating. Not too bad yet, but you know, yeah, it's starting to sweat a little. The old inline sixes, before they made the F30, they used to have this issue where this gasket would leak. You'd think BMW would be able to figure out how to make an oil filter housing gasket, but no, they had those problems back then as well, and they still haven't fixed them. Oil would leak down, get all over the belt. See my belt down there. Get all over the belt, and then those old engines had the ability to, the belt would slip off backwards that way into the engine, and it would basically suck into the timing chain and wreck the front seal and explode the engine. These engines don't actually have that problem. That can't actually happen because of a redesign on the front pulley and the harmonic balancer. Yeah, they don't do that on these, but still, it's leaking. I want to fix it. You can see over here, I bought a kit from FCP Euro. It comes with everything. Any hardware, bolts that's supposed to be replaced, FCP Euro for the win. They're awesome at making little kits like this for common problems on BMWs. Actually, all European cars. So shout out to them. They didn't sponsor this. I just like them. I bought this with my own money. They didn't sponsor anything. First things first, we'll grab this whole thing and just rip it out of here. Then there's a bit of foam insulation-y type thing for sound deadening. It just comes off as well by pulling. And that kind of frees up some space in here. Yeah, when you don't really look too carefully, it's leaking quite a bit. It's not wet, oily, but it's certainly seeping. So there's 3 bolts that hold this on. This one's a long one. We got one down here. And then we've got a really nasty one that's behind the intake manifold. So you actually have to remove the intake manifold and get it a little bit out of the way. I'm not going to take much off. It's not coming right out. But we're going to take the DME, which is the computer, off. And then we can get at the bolts for the intake manifold and we can kind of get going on this. We'll do all that stuff first. And then the last thing will be to take these bolts out and get the oil filter housing out of here. Alright, first things first, we're going to create a little bit of space here by removing the air cleaner assembly, mass airflow connector off, the intake pipe from the air cleaner assembly. It should just come off. This was that new pipe I put on in one of my previous videos that was broken. And that's it. That's the intake off. You never want to leave an intake pipe open like this. Stuff can fall in inadvertently and you can wreck something. So what you're going to do is take a paper towel or a shop towel and you want to just put the clamp over top of the rag. So there's no way that rag can fall off. There's no way anything can fall in your engine. That's really important. Really, really important. So I mean, a couple things here. The coolant, we got to break the cooling system apart. Here, we could always drain this cooling system. There is no drain for that, so there's a hose down there that is to the intake of the water pump. Water pump kind of sits down there. It's an electric water pump. You can undo the clamp and drain it from there, but I put new fluid into this thing. I put new coolant into this thing not very long ago, so I want to get away with doing as little as I can. I don't want to change all the fluid because that's been done already. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try and leave this oil cooler hooked up to the 2 coolant lines, and here's my upper rad hose, which also goes through that, right through that oil filter housing. Okay, I got this pail jammed in here. I got a funnel. The right tool for the job would be a pick, like this. There we go. Clips out. Right there, you can see the clip is now out. I had to pull it like here. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab it and rotate. I guess it must be keyed on there so that it doesn't twist. So what I'm going to try and do is keep this funnel underneath. Okay, not bad, not too much leaking. I've got this funnel jammed real hard in there. I've probably spilled some, but that's okay. All right, next is moving the DME right here. We've got to take this guy off. Just some little locky connector type things. You can see here, if I take this one off, I just push this little tab down here. I just move this lock lever over, and it's off. That's how simple it is to remove these connectors. These connectors just have little clips you squeeze in and they pop off. Pretty easy stuff. And then there's a bunch of bolts around it. 5 bolts that hold the intake manifold onto the engine, and we'll just go ahead and take those off, and it'll expose that real bad, nasty cap screw that holds the inside of this oil filter housing to the engine. Okay, you can see I got this intake out of the way. You can see how there's a space there between the intake. Let's look in here. The intake is separated. What I had to do is I had to unclip a few things from the intake manifold. I also had to remove that charge pipe right here. There's a clip right here. That clip I pulled up and then slid the charge pipe off, and it kind of wiggled out of the way. I have new gaskets. It came in this FCP Euro kit, but the one thing I wanted to do here is check to see if this thing's carboning up in the intake. This is a gasoline direct injected engine, and they are notorious for carboning up. So let's just take a look here. Let me zoom in at my intake valves, and wow, those valves and those ports are extremely clean. So if you're wondering, the N20 engines do not, I repeat, do not have a carboning issue. So now I've exposed that bolt. You can see that bolt way down there. I've exposed that with a manifold out of the way, and this housing should just come apart. No problem, right? I'm going to leave this behind. All the videos say to take it off, remove the coolant pipes. But remember, I'm trying to do as little coolant draining here as possible. Special socket. What is this thing? 86 teeth, 86 millimeters, 16 teeth. That's what it is. It says right on here, 25.5 Newton meters. I went for years without this thing. I just used a rubber strap wrench. Worked just fine. When you tighten it off, just go till it stops. Not a big deal. But for this, I went and I bought this tool. So, oil filter on a BMW, super easy. It fits quite well. Amazon, like 25 bucks, something like that. And it stayed behind, and I spilled. But that's okay, you know. Okay, bit of a mess. Just so happened to have a camera running, which is why it's messy. You don't want to, so this is right above the alternator. You got to be a bit careful. If you spill, just clean that up. You don't want it like oil oozing all over the alternator. But let's. Okay, gonna pull the cooler off now. The oil cooler. The engine oil cooler, let's be specific. There will be some leakage. This thing is full of oil after all. But once it starts leaking, what I can do is I can tilt it backwards. Hopefully, we'll see, perhaps. This is an E12 socket. One thing you gotta know is when you're working on BMWs, you need E sockets, which is like a reverse Torx, I guess you could say. Okay, quick movements, folks. Oh, there is a coolant port. Coolant. I'm just gonna try and set this here. Try and capture as much oil as we can and not make much of a mess. One of the bolts that holds this oil filter housing to the side of the cylinder head is right here. There's an E8 or an E10, don't remember, going this way, but this is in the way, this coolant pipe. But there is a trick. And I actually got this from the FCP Euro website, where they have good YouTube videos probably way better than mine that explain how to do this. What you do is get yourself a, what is this? An E10/E12 ratcheting wrench. Brand new, never been used. I bought this, 20 bucks, just for that bolt to make my life easier. So we'll see how this goes. Oh, look at that. Look at that, folks. Cheap ratcheting wrenches without a reverser button. Just remember that you don't want to go too far, because if I back this thing out too far and went up against something, out comes the cutting torch because there's no way to reverse it. Remember that spot time I told you where you don't want to go too far with a ratcheting wrench? Yeah, that just happened. Oh, that was a close one. Close one, guys. Whew. So that's an E12. Everything here seems to be E12. Oh dear. This is the one that we had to remove the exhaust or the intake manifold for. Funny story, I left my garage door open the other day. Overnight. Oops. And wouldn't you know it, got a bunch of tools stolen. My snap-on impact gun. Got a replacement on order for that, but I would be using that guy had my garage door not been left open. This is an E10, by the way. This isn't an E12, this is an E10. Bit of a longer bolt. So this should be it, and I suspect there's going to be oil flying everywhere when I take this off, so I'm going to grab a bunch of rags. Rags jammed in, ready to go. Another rag in my hand, ready to go. Oh, of course. Oh, oil flew everywhere, of course. And you don't want to like drop any crap in here, because this is going to be like the filtered oil part of the circuits of the oil system, and that goes straight to your bearings in your engine, so you don't want to like drop any junk in here. These gaskets are real crusty. Oh man, rock hard. See here, this section up here, it's just, yeah, wasn't really doing much anymore. That's okay. We're gonna clean this up now, and then we'll go ahead and put a new gasket on and put this all back together. So with a new gasket installed here, I'll let you take a look at this. Look how much it sticks out, protrudes from there. Oop, come on, blurry. There we go. Yeah, you could tell if you go back and look at what the old one looked like, how squashed out it was. It had basically no tension left in that seal. That's the new one. That's what it looks like. Okay, I've got my new seals in place. Cleaned this all out. Just for fun, this bit here is the oil filter bypass valve. There's a little springy thing in there. That's just in case your oil filter gets clogged up for whatever reason. Pressure overcomes the spring, and voila, it bypasses the oil pressure. It at least gives you oil pressure. Better to have unfiltered oil with pressure than no pressure at all, I suppose. So you do need to torque these down evenly. Don't just crank on each one individually. Kind of wait till it contacts and just do a little bit more on the other one. The seal has to kind of squish as you tighten it down, right? Okay, we can torque two of these. 22 Newton meters. My old trusty snap-on. The other one, I'm just gonna have to use the old school way. Go by feel. Oop, go the right way, that'll be helpful. Okay, sure, well, let's call that torqued. Good. So, start that one. Start that one. Such is life. Torque spec on this is really weird. It's 18 Newton meters plus 20 degrees. Now if it was 30 degrees, it would be easy because each flat is 30 degrees on there. Not flat, it's torques, but you get the idea. So I'm going to torque it to 18 Newton meters, and then from one notch to the next notch on each torques, I'm going to go 2/3 of the way there. Okay, there's our 18 Newton meters. There, we'll call that good. Yeah, we'll get the new oil filter in, we'll put the coolant pipes back together. We'll just basically blast this thing back together. I've got new gaskets that are going to go in here behind the intake. I'm going to replace all those, and it should just go real smooth. The torque spec for the intake manifold is 15 Newton meters. Kind of snugged them all up here. Have to go through them a few times to make sure they're all even. That's it. 15 Newton meters done. All back together for the most part, except for the beauty cover on this quite ugly engine, to be honest. The beauty cover helps. I've topped up the coolant. The lid is loose on it. I'm going to show you how to bleed a BMW cooling system. It's actually quite brilliant. I got the battery charger on it, which is important. And let's get inside and bleed this thing. So I know there's lots of German car haters out there, but they sometimes do things that are absolutely brilliant. That's why I want to show you how to bleed the cooling system, because it's got an electric water pump. It fully bleeds the whole thing without you having to do anything. Start the engine up, you can get rid of coolant leaks before you start it, overheat it. The engine doesn't even run for this, as long as you have a battery charger on, because it probably takes a lot of power to run that water pump. I'll show you how to do that. If I can remember. It's been a while and I didn't look it up again. So all you do, let's turn the ignition on, and then we turn the cooling system all the way to hot, and then it didn't like me. It really didn't like me not disconnecting the batteries before I took the DME off. Things are pretty angry in here. I've had a hard fail with this job. That dash is lit up like a Christmas tree and nothing works, but I found this connector loose. Voth, you bad boy, you did not put that on properly. Okay, I'm gonna go turn the key off, put that back on, and then we'll try all over again. Let's try again. Hey, that's better. Now let's see if the heater turns on. Floor it. Should take 10 seconds. Oh, I hear bubbling. I hear bubbling. So I can hear the water pump starting to run. It starts off on a slow cycle, I think. And, oh, here we go. There's some stuff happening. Yep, she's wound up. And the level on my reservoir is still good. You just keep topping it up as it purges all the air out. That is the brilliance of BMW. Once in a while they pull through, folks. This will go for 10-15 minutes. My battery charger hopefully won't the voltage won't go too low. Okay, the cooling system's bled, level's okay. One thing I found is I had 3 missing cap screws left over, and those were supposed to be replacements for that oil cooler. So all I did is I replaced one at a time and torqued it back up to the 18 Newton meters plus 20 degrees, and so that's done. Just the oil left to do. So I dumped the oil as you saw. You also saw me fishing around for the little copper seal that goes on the oil bung. That's only for all-wheel drive cars. All-wheel drive cars have an aluminum pan. Rear-wheel drive cars have a plastic pan, and I don't think they have a little seal. So when you buy an oil filter, make sure you get one for the aluminum pan because it'll have that seal. Now, we're in the middle of a big garage cleanup, as you can probably tell by the mess everywhere. Yeah, sometime between when I opened the filter to put it in the engine and today, garage cleanup. The little copper ring went missing, so I had to reuse it. Not a big deal. We'll put a new one on next time. Helpful tip, get yourself a really good drain bucket, big one. I had a crappy one. I was using ice cream pails and stuff like that. It's so annoying. I found this one during the garage cleanup that I didn't even know about. I think the previous owners of this house had it. It's really good. Nice little pour spout on it. You can get things done. Time to put the oil in. Now this is a weird car to put oil in. Like many of the newer German cars, there's no dipstick. There's just a sensor. So we have to actually measure the oil out, and forgive me, but I don't have a good measuring container for oil. I need to buy myself one. That's on the list. I promise I will. But for now, I use an old oil jug with little markings down the side. It needs 4.8 liters. I work in liters here. Oh, drain plug, forgot to mention, 18 foot-pounds. I apologize for switching between metric and standard for the foot-pounds, but I just always have done it 18 because that's the spec converted into foot-pounds, so that's what I do. Plastic pans are different, so don't do that on plastic pans. Normally I would just fire it up right now, but this is the first time I've started it since I've done the oil filter housing, so I need to be very ginger about this. I'm going to fire it up, check for leaks real carefully. It has to run for a few minutes before you can check the oil on the iDrive menu screen, and I'll show you that in a second. Yeah, I'm going to fire it up now. Hopefully we don't get any geysers or any sprays coming from the engine. I don't know. I should be fine, right? So the alternator was making some pretty grumpy noises there at first. I think some coolant must have gone in it. It's cleared up now. It was like wisps of smoke kind of coming everywhere. I think it was just coolant just kind of evaporating and getting out of there. It's quiet now. I hope it's okay. That's an expensive alternator. So from your main menu, all you got to do is go into vehicle info, vehicle status. And then you can see all these different measurements here. We got measure oil level, and you can see it's grayed out right now. Not enough temperature in this thing quite yet. So we'll. The engine now feels like it's warm enough. So let's hit the start measurement button, and you'll see what happens here. You can hear that it increases the speed, just over 1,000, and now it's measuring the engine oil level. Isn't that super exciting? No dipstick required. Takes about a minute and a half. Oh, look at that. It even has me has a little kind of a fake dipstick, kind of a min-max. So it thinks that the oil level is good. Next I'm going to show you how to reset the oil light. Service required. You can see engine oil and vehicle check, both the dealer check over and the engine oil change are over. I didn't set this last time because I don't go with the 19,000 kilometer interval. I go every 10,000. Turn the car on. You hold down the trip reset. Okay, engine oil. Reset possible. Hold it down again. Reset. Hold it down again. Reset in process. Oh, reset successful. And you just kind of toggle through them all. Look at reset possible. I'm going to reset the vehicle check as well because I'm going to do that one as well. Reset successful. Brake fluid. No, you can just go through them all or whatever. Anyway, you can see here now on my screen that everything's okay magically. There you go. That's how you change the oil filter housing gasket on an N20 engine BMW in an F30 car and change the oil. Now you know how to change the oil. So if this was helpful to you, or at least mildly entertaining, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all those things. and I will see you next time.